With me now is actress Sarah Michelle Gellar, who is making her return to primetime television in a new show on Fox called Other People's Houses. Good morning.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's so lovely to have you on this bright, early morning.
It is early.
And you look so bright and happy to be here.
Thank you. It's like 3 a.m. for me. I think my alarm rang. I'm like, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. But.
So, yeah, I can understand that the LA to New York jaunt is quite tough for everyone. So Other People's Houses is based on a book by Abby Waxman. How did you get the idea to adapt the novel for television?
I love to read. Reading is my escape from everything. It's the one time where I really find that I can shut down and really connect. And I just decided, like last year, I said, I think my kids are grown. Or not grown. My kids are old enough to go back to work. And it just seemed like the right time. So I started looking for material that really interested me and spoke to me. And because a lot of the source material that I find comes from books. So I read both Other People's Houses and Sometimes I Lie. And I said, they're so different too. They're both, just complete opposite stories and worlds. And I said, those are the two that I want to do to come back.
And what about Ann Porter's character did you find so exciting? And what can you share about the secrets in her house?
I can't share very much yet because we're still finalizing everything. But it's quite different from the book, where Sometimes I Lie, we're much closer to the original story. With Other People's Houses, we're sort of using it as jumping off point. Just the idea that in this day and age, we think we know people based on social media and their feeds and what comes up, but really all we're seeing is this slice of this curated life that they want you to see and what really happens behind closed doors before that one perfect picture.
And you mentioned that you returned to TV because your kids are a little older, but were there any other factors that told you, I'm going to go back into television and create this project specifically?
It was a combination. I had to take some time when my kids were young because that's the only time you really get to be there, and that was important. And I've had such an incredible career so far that for me, everything is gravy. It's always like the icing on the cake, and it can be something that speaks to me that sounds like fun, a world I haven't been part of, a story that hasn't been told yet. So I think it was those factors all sort of coming together.
Okay. Well, the show uses social media as a lens to look into people's homes. And it made me start to think about our neighbors. We don't meet our neighbors every time, but we can look into their homes through their social media.
It's really kind of odd when you think about it. Nobody's a stranger anymore. And people put this life out there, but 9 out of 10 times, it has nothing to do with their actual life.
For sure.
It's literally these curated, perfect images.
Exactly. But how do you think that's changing us as a culture, the fact that we're participating in that?
Well, I think that it's changing how we view ourselves. We used to look for validation from friends and family. Now we look for validation from strangers. We're putting it out there. I mean, they've done studies that show the amount of likes literally releases serotonins in your body that gives you a euphoric feeling. I mean, that's really frightening. We need to look in ourselves, and we need to look to the people that know us best for that, not complete strangers.
And you recently told Oprah Magazine that you really love Instagram because you're allowed to have a lot of agency in dictating your story through social media, which I think is a little hard on Twitter at times. I think it's a little reactionary. What types of stories are you hoping to show through your Instagram as someone that seems very conscious of the ways in which it can tell a good story, but also tell stories that aren't true?
It took me a while to come around to social media. I'm a very private person. I've managed to get by being like that. And so I think at first I was hesitant. But then it's exactly what you said. I realized, wait, I'm responsible for telling my own story. A lot of times you meet a journalist, and to no fault of their own, they have a story to tell. They have an agenda. Their editor is looking for something. So it can come in slanted. They can take bits and pieces. And with Instagram, Facebook, or even Twitter, if, it's just, for me, Twitter was a lot of work. And until I really have the time when I can be on there and speak, I feel like you leave a lot of people out. Where in Instagram, you can sort of tell a larger, more holistic story. But I'm responsible for it. If I read something about myself that's untrue, I can just say something for the first time. And for the first time, I have the right to tell my own story. And I think that's always been very odd, that my personal story and my journey has always been dictated by others.
Yeah, and that has to feel incredibly empowering as a woman in Hollywood, where I feel like women in Hollywood have had their stories really taken apart, and it sounds as if you found reclamation.
Yeah, especially because everybody wants to have this, either rags to riches or just, everybody sort of wants to have a hand in that story. But also because I like privacy, it gives me the bit to show, because the true fans really just want to see a little bit of slice of your life. They don't need to know all the details. They just want to know a little more that's real. So then again, it also gives me, without my children feeling, bombarded by a paparazzi that jumps out, like I can tell bits and pieces of our lives and still keep that control.
I love that. I think I'm a little jealous of your kids because you and your husband, Freddie Prinze Jr., are both cooks and you have cookbooks out. But who is the better cook at home?
Oh, Freddie. I mean,
Freddie?
That's not even he went to culinary school. What's
Really?
funny is, so I grew up in New York City, so I made reservations. I knew how to order takeout before the lunch special ended, so that you could still get the lunch special deal but eat it for dinner. Like that's what I knew, and I had no interest in being in the kitchen in New York City. I mean, my kitchen was like this big. I could touch both walls.
Yep.
It was like, it was for sweaters and shoes, like extra closet space. So realizing that.
Sorry, just realizing I do the same thing.
Your space is so limited in New York City. Like you have to use that space. Like I used my stovetop.
Yeah.
I just didn't use the actual oven underneath it.
Yep.
So, but realizing, especially once you have kids too, that it's the one time the phones go down and you really connect. And it's always over food, right?
Yeah.
You're dating someone, you go out to dinner, you meet the family, you have it. Like everything happens around food. And so I realized like, I better get my butt in there and learn. So no, he is by far the better chef.
Okay, so Freddie for dinner, you for going out to dinner.
Yes, I make a great reservation.
Wonderful.
But I've learned, and my meals may not be as complex as his. I may rely a little more on recipes than he does, but I've learned to really love it. And also, I now live in a house where when I don't touch both walls.
Yes,
which
you have
also
space,
helps,
which is good. So
although not in this dress. In this dress, I would still only touch those.
I can see you frying some chicken in the dress. That'd be great.
I can do that.
I want to
Although I don't fry a lot of chicken. I do fry Brussels sprouts, though.
Girl, I need to get that recipe. Well, you recently partnered with Lysol for the Here for Healthy Schools. Why was that so important for you to do?
I love what Lysol is doing with Here for Healthy Schools. People don't realize that there are over 60 million absences from kids during cold and flu season.
Really?
And when you think about that, when you go down the list of all of that, so they're missing key moments in education. You miss too many key moments in education, you fall behind. You get nervous coming back. It's hard to catch up. Schools get funding based on attendance. You have all of these kids missing. Schools are going to lose programs because of that. And for some kids, like their healthy meal comes from being in school. So as a parent, as a person of the community in school, like what are those things that you can do to help? And I love that Lysol, who not only has this great product, is saying, hey, let's partner and let's figure out how to be a better community to help that. Whether it's donating these smart thermometers that I wish I had when my kids were little that aggregate all of the temperatures and sicknesses that are going around and gives you like up-to-date information about medicines that can help and symptoms and like what to do at home for remedies.
Amazing.
Right? Like I didn't have that. I mean, I was like, when I was a kid, you put it under your tongue and you left it for like 900 years and hoped the mercury didn't poison you. Or making videos, partnering with people like Nickelodeon and showing videos that can help make clean habits part of your lifestyle. And when you realize as a community that we're all responsible, a lot of these diseases that are going around, or I should say sicknesses, are preventable. And so what are the things we can do as a community? So Here for Healthy Schools is all about partnering, giving back, delivering product, and delivering ways to avoid, I don't want to get the cold and flu.
No, I'm sure, because if your kids get it and they bring them home to you.
And then you can't get rid of it, and then you give it to your neighbors, and you give it to, and it keeps circulating in this time of year.
It sure does, it sure does. So you and your husband have shared the screen in many iconic films, such as I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scooby-Doo. Have your kids watched these films yet? And what's it like for them to see you two on screen?
It's actually really funny. No, our kids haven't. But the other day we were flipping channels, and I Know What You Did Last Summer came on. And my daughter looked for a couple seconds, and she was like, Mom, is that you? Is that Dad? Is that Deacon's dad? And and then I was like, oh, you should watch the first 5 minutes. It's all you can see. She's like, no, Harry Potter's on.
She did not want to see Mom and Dad.
Right. She watched for literally 7 seconds. We told her, we said you can only watch the first, it's literally the first 5 minutes. So she's like, there's nothing happens in the first 5 minutes, whatever. Yeah, she had no interest.
Well, a show that I don't know if they've seen yet is it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, really iconic series. And I know that you are not wanting to be part of any reboot if it happens, but is there anything that they could present to you that would make you more interested in something like that?
I don't think it's about me being part of it. I'm all for them rebooting it. I think it's an important story. I think there's a way to modernize it and tell a different story now. I think that the way we ended lends itself to it. But at the same time, I'm so proud of the show that we made. And what I think is even more impressive is that it's still relevant today. That people find it and watch it for the first time, and it means exactly the same, if not more now, that there's more lessons to take. There's more empowerment to take from it. So does it really need to be done again? I think for me, what worked at the time was it was the story of the horrors of adolescence manifested as actual horrors, as actual demons. I don't know if you know this, but I'm not an adolescent.
You're like, I can't play a high schooler. That's a real thing.
I mean,
You're like, I'm
I
not gonna
did
try.
get carded the other day buying cold medicine, which was kind of amazing and the highlight of my day. And then she looked at my license. She's just like, "Oh, you're old." And I was like, it went from this like great euphoric high to kind of depressed. But at the same time, like she thought I looked. Yeah, it was a myriad of
Wow,
emotions.
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you
today.
for having
It's
me.
been lovely getting to chat. Well, make sure you check out Other People's Houses on Fox. More Aim to DM is up next.